breaking in the Super 8. Little tractor just don't quit. Just spinning. Whoa! All right, guy, what'd you think of that little A? That's kind of a cute little tractor. Farm all power right there. So my 3-point chatters every time I start my tractor, or just hydraulic chattering in general. My loader gets chattery throughout the day. What's wrong with my main hydraulic pump? That's a very common question. And so we're just going to kind of go through a little bit of how you get hydraulic chatter and kind of how your hydraulic system works to help you kind of just have an understanding of what's going on. And so we got a little tractor here tore apart, so we'll just kind of pretend with this tractor. Zoom out. So you got your transmission pump right here, sits right there. If you got a mystery shift or a quad range, it's the same. And if you have a power shift, it's in the clutch housing like you saw in my power shift video. And then we have our main pump, but we have a reservoir. Most tractors will have a reservoir, and you have a hydraulic cooler. So it's morning, you come out to your tractor and you hop in, you hit the key, your 3-point is settled overnight, but the 3-point lever is still in the raised position. So then you hit the key and the 3-point rattles its way to the top. And you're just like, oh my gosh, that's so annoying. What is going on is that the main hydraulic pump can put out, let's just say 25 gallons a minute, and the transmission pump can only get 15 gallons a minute up to it. And you're going to say, well, that's kind of stupid. Why would you not have a transmission pump that can put out more than the main pump? And I've asked that question for many years. But we got some workarounds. That's what that reservoir is for. But what's happening is you start the tractor up, the transmission pump is trying to fill the cooler, fill the main pump, fill the system, fill the reservoir. And in that moment in time, the main pump sees some oil and it knows that the 3-point is not in position. So it's going to send oil back, but it's sending oil back faster than it can get the oil. So that's where that chatter comes from. Now, before you start, if you get in and push your 3-point lever forward and then start the tractor and give it 30 seconds, you still might get a little bit of chatter just because some air got into the system from settling, but it should be good. And with several cycles up and down, it should start to clear up some. The only thing is you don't want to sit there and cycle the 3-point up and down constantly. Well, I guess you can, but it's just a huge user of oil. So you want to lift it up, let it down, give it 5 or 10 seconds, lift it up again, and it should be a little bit smoother. But we said that the main pump puts out more than the transmission pump. So the workaround that is your outlets do not come back to sump. This is the sump. Your outlets come back to the charged circuit to run parallel oil to help add oil to the charged circuit that the transmission pump is feeding. So when you're lifting your loader, your outlet on one side, let's go to an outlet, stay with me. So your outlet, whether it's a loader or a disc or anything, this one, let's say, is coming out here and it's filling this side of the cylinder. But the other side of the cylinder has oil coming back to this side. That oil is going back to the charge circuit. So the only oil we really need to pump is the difference in volume between the two sides of the cylinder. The cylinder has a rod on one side and not on the other. So when you're extending a cylinder, it takes more oil than when you retract a cylinder. Now, if you're getting chattering throughout the day, the little 2630s, them 2000 series, 2630s, 2550s, they're notorious for low pressure side, transmission pressure side leaks. You go under the shift column and there's piping and stuff under there, and then pipes crack, and then they starve the front end for oil. On a 4000 series, 4010, 4020, 3020, you know, the Waterloo row crop chassis, if you're getting cavitation throughout the day, there's several things going on. If you have a 30 series or later, you could have a high pressure leak. So one of these valves, while we're not using it, could be turning a lot of oil through itself, leaking back to sump. And or the 3-point valve or the 3-point cover underneath there, we can get high pressure to sump leaks. Even the steering block can be a high pressure leak. So when you go to use your loader, you already got several gallons a minute going through that leak. So when you go to use your loader, now we're draining that reservoir, and now we're relying on the transmission pump to feed the main pump. Hot spots. If we're getting hot spots, one outlet is just tremendously more hot than the other. The 3-point valve housing is just way more hot than these outlets, and we haven't been using it, or we can hear squeals in the hydraulics back here. Them are high pressure leaks. If you're on a 20 series, a 10 or 20 series, 4010, 4020, with the mystery shift, the 8-speed transmission, your transmission pump stops every time you push the clutch in. So when you're coming up to the hay rack and you got a bale on the loader and you push the clutch in and you lift the loader and you kind of set, and then you creep forward just a little bit, and then you set down and back up, and while you're backing up you rock back and you're setting down. If you're doing a fast enough cycle time, every time you do that, you're slowly going to get ahead, especially when your engine's at idle. Or you're using like 5th gear and high reverse instead of 3rd gear and low reverse with more engine RPM. That's what I would recommend. Even if you got a little more distance to travel, use 3rd gear and a higher RPM. That keeps your oil pump, everything so much better on the hydraulics, and it spins your engine faster. You get more air coming through, better cooling up front. It's just better overall. But on your 10s and 20 series, that's a very common thing, is guys will hold the clutch in and do hydraulic functions, and then you run out of oil very quickly. If you got a 10 and 20 series and you push the clutch in and you're holding it there for a few minutes while you're talking to somebody or whatever, and you notice that your main pump gets a little noisy, then you've got some high pressure leaks that put that oil back to sump, and no oil got back to the main pump. But I don't know. I hope that answers some of your guys' questions about chattering hydraulics. And we got to get this guy tore apart. We think there's a failure in the differential, so we got to get a cab off and the 3-point off.